kinematics of particles, and this time we are entering into the domains of kinetics. So we talked a little bit about kinetics earlier. So yes, to describe the motion of a particle, we need quantities like displacement, velocity, and acceleration. Okay, and earlier we are considering rectilinear motion and curvilinear motion, and also considering different types of coordinate systems, but never did we consider the forces that cause this motion. And of course, to relate between force and motion, we need to talk about the mass of the particle, which so far we didn't do. I mean, we also solved some problems involving gravity, but instead of considering gravity as a force, we consider that to be an acceleration. Okay, so when we talk about kinetics, here we are interested in talking about the force and the inertia of the particle. And the most important law that comes in mind while we are still in the domains of Newtonian mechanics, of course. Uh, that is the second law of motion. So second law of motion, which says the net force acting on a particle. And to be frank, the second law of motion is indeed defined for a particle without any dimension, is mass times its acceleration. Okay. Or actually, to be precise, it is mentioned that the rate of change of momentum is directly proportional to the applied force. But because in normal day-to-day interaction the mass doesn't change, what changes is the velocity. So basically this quantity is mv dot. Okay, so So this is the second law, and we know that the first law is essentially a corollary of the second law. So first law just comes out of second law, and the statement goes like this: if the net force uh, is zero, that means if not acted on by external forces, the object either remains stationary or moves with a constant velocity. So basically, this means the acceleration is zero. Okay. Now, when we are looking through the knowledge of Newton's laws of motion, in addition to second law, the third law of motion. So third law of motion seems like an independent law, uh, which basically says the action and the reaction are equal and opposite. Okay. Um, Now, in addition to Newton's laws, we need to know something called law of conservation of linear momentum. Now, before going into the further details of this, let me tell you that there is, of course, law of conservation of angular momentum as well. But since we are talking about particles, okay, we don't need laws of conservation of angular momentum. Of course, we can define angular momentum for a particle, but you see, for a particle, the motion itself can be described through linear motion, linear displacements, etc. So therefore, a law of conservation of linear momentum is sufficient for particles. And actually, this law is more fundamental than any of Newton's laws, and it can be shown that it's not exactly the second law. Um, it's actually a more fundamental law. So of course we have only 2 hours of time, and we want to solve a few problems. But before going into that, okay, let's just talk about the law of conservation or the fundamental nature of law of conservation of linear momentum. Now, when it comes to a single particle, and uh, and let's say the particle is acted on by multiple forces, uh, for each force we can integrate, considering a given force as a function of time, we can integrate between two distinct time points t1 and t2, and that becomes the impulse, and that impulse is going to have a result, so on the change in the momentum of the particle. Okay, so which basically means mv2 minus mv1. Okay, and that's what is the uh, conservation of linear momentum when it comes to a single particle. And when it comes to, let's say, two particles, okay, when there are two particles interacting in isolation, that means there is no other external effect. Okay, so for example, they are moving with arbitrary velocity, and let's say they collide at an instant, and the collision lasts for a very tiny amount of time. Okay, so we know this to be the conservation of linear momentum. uh, so this is the statement for conservation of linear momentum of two particles, okay, uh, when they are in isolation. So the idea is the net momentum of the two particles is conserved when the two
Sir,
particles are in isolation. Yes,
sir, someone is waiting.
yeah. So when two particles are interacting in isolation, their net momentum before and after collision, they are conserved. Okay. Now if you look at this expression, if you look at this expression, uh, so you can rewrite this equation to be m1 v1 m1 v1 minus v1 0, that is before collision, equals minus m2 v2 minus v2 0 before collision. Okay, and now at this point, it is up to you, you know which which law of motion of Newton's do you want to use. Let's say if I choose to use, let's try to prove that second law is a derivative of law of conservation of momentum. So mm, so now let's say this time interval delta t, between which you are noticing this much change in momentum. So let's take that to be tending to 0. Okay, so all we have is m1 dv1 equals m2 dv2, or the differential m1 v1 is equals minus differential m2 v2 differential m2 v2, and because for individual particles, now we are using the you know the uh, okay, so what we are doing here is sorry, you are using the second law to prove the third law, let's say. So when we look at second law and third law in isolation, this may seem like independent laws, but once we bring in conservation of linear momentum, and you see this statement right here, this essentially is the integrated version of second law. And that's what the law of conservation of linear momentum looks like for a single particle. Now we have two particles interacting in isolation, and there if we incorporate, so if we divide both sides with dt, okay, so we have this is the force. Uh, the left hand side is the force F1, that is the force acting on the particle 1, but coming from second particle. And if that equals F21, which is the force on particle 2. So let's say this is particle 1 and this is particle 2, that is coming from particle 1. Okay, so basically these are actions and reactions, and with that we end up having the third law of motion. In your textbook, actually, the route that has been taken is combining the second law and then the third law to arrive at conservation of linear momentum. Okay, so that is linear conservation of linear momentum for two particles. Okay, in isolation. So the thing is, the idea is that if you take the third law, the second law, of course we are talking about Newton's laws, and conservation of linear momentum, only 2 out of 3 are independent, so you can always prove the third using the other two. Okay. um, okay, so of course these sort of expressions you will encounter in the chapter impulse and momentum methods. So these are one of the methods in which we can solve problems involving kinetics, but today we would not be going that far. Actually today we would not have enough time to discuss about conservation of sorry the in impulse momentum method. We would not be having that much time, and we would also not be able to cover the work energy method. So there are impulse momentum methods, and there are work energy methods. Okay, so these two parts would not be covered in the class, but they are indeed in your syllabus. So what you can do is, I have of course shared the class notes. Okay, and you'll probably find some of it in the the lecture video of previous year, and of course you'll find them in the class note. So you can go through them, you can go through your textbook, and if you face any issue, maybe sometime in the next week we can have a discussion for discussion for those chapters. Okay, but we don't have enough time to cover them in the classroom. Okay, but we still have different types of problems to solve in kinetics. Of course, all the problems that we solved in kinetics, there could be a direct kinetics versions of those kinetics versions of those problems, but for the time being, let's not go into that, but let's look at some other problems. হরেরাম, আমি ক্লাস নিচ্ছি গো। হ্যালো হরেরাম, আমি ক্লাস নিচ্ছি গো একটা। আমার তো আজকে 9টা নাগাদ শেষ হবে গো। আজকের বদলে অন্যদিন মিটিংটা করলে একটু ভালো হয়। সে তো করেননি, কি করা যাবে বলো তাহলে? মানে একটা কোশ্চেন তো ঠিক আছে, আমি তোমাকে 9টার পরে কল করছি, ঠিক আছে? Okay, so can you see the first problem? Is it clearly visible, the first one?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. So
Sir, the presentation's gone.
presentation is gone.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So mu s and mu k are given to be this much. This one is 0.25 and this one is 0.2. Okay. Now the question here is, what would be the acceleration of the bodies, okay, when released from rest? Now this is the very first problem that we are solving in kinetics, and since it's a problem in kinetics, we are talking about the forces, we are talking about the inertia, and we are also talking about something called equations of motion, which basically look like this: summation of forces is mass times acceleration. Now whenever we have an expression involving summation of all the forces, the resultant force, okay, there is no way we can skip a free body diagram. So let's start there. Okay. Now
Sir.
Yes.
Sir, before starting, for all these cases, the following
Yes.
questions we will doing. Sir, can we take GS10 or 9.81?
I mean, 10 would be a much cruder value, okay, unless in your question paper it tells you that you can assume 10. I would suggest go with 9.81 or 9.8. Okay.
Okay. Okay, sir.
Okay. So so let's look at what sort of forces that are acting on the bodies. Let's take first the body with a mass of 60 kg. Okay, so this is A, and MA is 60 kgs. And what sort of forces would be acting on A? One is, of course, the force due to gravity, which is mg, ma times g. Then there is the obvious normal force coming from the ground. Okay. Now, there are two possibilities: that the whole system moves towards the left, or the whole system moves towards the right. Okay. Now, I'm considering case one, let's say, where the whole system moves towards the left. Okay. Assuming the system moves towards the left, let us assume a friction force which is F equals mu k times n, acting towards the right. Okay. Now these are the three forces, plus there would be another force, which is the tension due to the cable. Okay. So these are the forces on this one, and I'm sure you are you have not completely forgotten how to draw free body diagrams, but you'll have to redo that process. Now, for the 20 kg mass, or this B right here, the object B right here, where MB is 20 kg, okay, and then it has MB times G going downwards, and of course, because the cable has two folds, so 2T tension acting upwards. Now, obviously, by assuming T on one side, 2T on other side, I'm assuming a couple of things. First of all, there is no friction on the pulley. Had there been friction, the tension on each side of the cable would not be same. Also, I'm assuming that the inertia of the pulleys, okay, for example, this pulley right here, it is moving downwards. I'm neglecting the inertia of that pulley. I'm neglecting obviously the inertia of the cable, okay, because if all those inertias were to be considered, the tension obviously would not be same everywhere, okay, because a part of the tension would be used to cause that sort of an acceleration, okay. So so right now I'm assuming that this body in the left, it is moving downwards by a distance of x, and this body moves upwards with a distance of y, okay. So obviously in this problem, none of the bodies are in equilibrium, okay. So we can also work out their accelerations. For example, acceleration for this one is x double dot, and acceleration for this one is y double dot. Now, if we write all the equations, okay, we have there are two bodies, two rigid bodies, okay, and we can write 4 equations of motion, okay. So with 4 equations of motion, for example, for A, we would consider that the object is in equilibrium in in y prime direction. What is y prime direction? So let us define this as the x prime coordinate and this as the y prime coordinate. I'm assuming simply that normal to the plane, the object has no acceleration, because if the object would be leaving the surface, first of all, there would not be no normal force, and that's an impractical motion. So it is safe to assume that the forces are balanced in y prime direction. So although there is motion, the motion is only in one direction. In the other direction, it is actually not the equation of motion, it's an equation of equilibrium, which is to say that it is in equilibrium in y prime direction, which is that m minus ma times g, and you already know what to do with this. This angle right here is your theta equals 30 degree, and you get a very familiar expression, ma g cos theta equals 0. Now, that is not the case all the time. I mean, I could also be applying a force which is, either directed like this, an external force. Okay. And that force might have appeared in this equation right here. The object would still be in equilibrium in y prime direction, but that force, a component of that force might also appear in this expression. So without solving this equilibrium equation, and without definitively getting this expression n equals ma times g cos theta, simply writing from intuition or from practice or from by guess that n equals ma times g cos theta, okay, would be not solving the problem correctly, okay, which basically means it's a wrong way of solving the problem. So you properly show this equation to be true, okay, and if there are other forces, then bring those components in the expression. and then get the whatever the correct expression of n do you get. Don't just intuitively put n equals mag cos theta. So from this you will get some relation, some value of n. So the normal force is obviously known, and you know what coefficient of friction to use. It's obviously mu k. So you know the value of f. So n and f are known quantities. Okay. Now you have this equation right here. Sigma f fx prime is minus mag sine theta plus f plus t and equals minus mag x double dot, because x is simply opposing x prime, right? If it is moving towards the left, and if x is the motion, moving towards the left, okay, so x double dot is actually the negative of the acceleration in x prime direction. So be careful with what notation do you choose. You cannot simply put it to be plus x double dot. Okay, so these are two equations, but you are already dealing with two unknowns right here. F is not an unknown, not an unknown. Okay, but t and x double dot, these are unknowns. Okay, and some of you have already mentally guessed what's to do with that. Okay, but let's say let's just gradually step into it. So for B, we only have one equation of motion, and that is simply the actual sigma Fy equals MB, sorry, for B, MB times Y double dot. Of course, Y is in positive Y direction. And then why we are not talking about its motion in X direction? Because there is, no detectable, no identifiable force in X direction. And it is also not expected to, accelerate in X direction. So which basically means the either side of the equation is zero. So there is no point bringing in that equation. Now, what are the forces that are acting in, Y direction? So of course there is 2t, but then there is also mb times g. So even in this equation, we have two unknowns, of course, but of which t has already appeared in the previous equation. So right now we have two equations. This is equation number 1 and equation number 2 involving three unknowns, that is t, y double dot and x double dot. Now you can, some of you already know what is the relation between x double dot and y double dot, and some of you would, after telling you repeatedly, will definitely put that, without doing the necessary steps, simply from intuitions. But the idea is you show how x double dot and y, how such relation between x double dot and y double dot came to be. Okay, so the idea is your argument should be that the change in length of the cable, and there goes our third assumption, that the length of the cable doesn't change. The cable itself is unstretchable. So a lot of assumptions are going here. The cable is unstretchable, cable is weightless, the pulleys are weightless, so on, frictionless, so on. So if delta L is a change in the length, so that would be if if there is some if the block B were to remain stationary, and you should literally write this in your answer script, that if block B were to remain stationary and if only block A were to move, the length would not be a constant, the length would be changed, and that change in length would be positive and by the same amount as x. Now if the other thing happened, if the opposite happened, if A was stationary and if only B were to move, okay, because towards the B side the cable is attached two folds, so for A being stationary and B only moving upwards, it would the length would reduce by twice y. Okay, and since the change in length of the cable is 0, so this whole thing goes to 0, and that gives you a relation between x and y, and so it does for x double dot and y double dot. And in the end, you will be having 3 equations. Okay, and that way you get to solve your first problem in kinetics involving constrained motion. Okay, so at this point, do you have any questions regarding this problem? If not, then try to solve this one, and let's compare the answers.
স্যার
বলো।
একটা জিনিস, যে এই আমরা যখন এই সবকটা ইকুয়েশনকে সলভ করব, হ্যাঁ মানে আমরা এখানে টি তো বের করছি না, আমরা এখানে আমরা সব অ্যাক্সেশন বের করছি। তো বেসিক্যালি আমরা সব ওই ফার্স্ট আর সেকেন্ড ইকুয়েশনটা থেকে আমরা টিটাকে বাদ দেব। তো যেই লাস্টে যে ইকুয়েশনটা ফর্ম হবে এ দিয়ে, সো ওটা কি কোনো মিনিংফুল হয়? মানে ওটা কি দেখে কিছু বোঝা যাবে? মানে অনেক সময় হয় না যে সবকটাকে নিয়ে বোঝা যাবে না একটা, আমরা একটা কাজ 12 করতাম যে হয়তো বলতে পারি যে পুরো সিস্টেমটা একটা ইকুইভ্যালেন্ট মাস, এটা একটা ইকুইভ্যালেন্ট ফোর্স, এটা তো বেসিক্যালি ইকুইভ্যালেন্ট যে অ্যাক্সেশন সেটা এরকম, সেরকম কিছু বোঝা যেতে পারে কি?
আমি আই এম নট শিওর যে আমি তোমার পুরো কোশ্চেনটা বুঝেছি বা আদৌ হয়তো বুঝিনি, কিন্তু আমার একটা জিনিস মনে হলো তোমার কথার মধ্যে, that we are not determining the tension. But my argument is we would also determine the tension, and actually that our assumption of the motion, because there is friction involved in the left body, so we need to check what sort of value do we get for the tension. Is it coming to be positive? Because the tension always has to be positive. The cable can only sustain tension, it cannot provide support in compression. So maybe you end up getting a negative T with all correct calculations only because of the wrong assumption in the case 1. Then probably have to you'll have to change your assumption. So just by eliminating T, you might get some answer and you might be happy with that, but that should not be acceptable.
ওকে স্যার, ওকে স্যার।
ওকে, আচ্ছা, এবার একটু কোশ্চেনটা বলো তো কি করলে আমি ঠিক বুঝতে পারিনি।
না স্যার, মানে কি বলবো, মানে ফর এক্সাম্পল মানে যেরকম আসছিল আমার কাছে, জিনিসটা আসছিল আমার কাছে হচ্ছে গিয়ে মানে টি প্রথম ইকুয়েশন ছিল 294, মানে ইকুয়েশন 1 যেটা এখানে 294.3 মাইনাস টি মাইনাস 101.948, মানে এখানে কাইনেটিক ফ্রিকশনটা দিলাম এখানে, ইকুয়ালস 60a। আমি এখানে এস আর এক্স ডাবল ডট, আর এটা এই সেকেন্ড ইকুয়েশনটা হচ্ছে গিয়ে 2t minus 196.2 equals 20x double dot.
ওকে,
সো তাহলে এলিমিনেট করার পর জিনিসটা আসবে হচ্ছে 294.3 মাইনাস 98.1 মাইনাস 101.948 equals 70a. সো আমি এটাই বলছিলাম যে এই যে ডান দিকে হচ্ছে এটা 70a আর বাঁ দিকে হচ্ছে কি একটা কোনো পার্টিকুলার ভ্যালু আসবে। সো ওই যে ওই ভ্যালুটা এরা বলছে মানে ডাজ দ্যাট সিগনিফাই এনিথিং? মানে 70 এটা এমন হতে পারে যে ইট ক্যান বি আ ভ্যালু অফ আ ইকুইভ্যালেন্ট মাস অফ দ্যাট হোল বডি,
ওকে,
মানে হোল সিস্টেম। মিউ যে মাঝে মধ্যে লিখি না আমরা, মানে সেরকম বলছে, সেরকম মানে যে এরকম বাঁ দিকে যে আমাদের একটা ফোর্স, এটা নিউটনের একটা ইউনিট আসবে, তো সেরকম একটা ইকুইভ্যালেন্ট ফোর্স, এখানে ইকুইভ্যালেন্ট মাস, তো সেরকম বলছিলাম আমি। সেটা কিছু সিগনিফাই করে কিনা
সেটা করে কিনা বলতে পারবো না। প্রথম কথা হচ্ছে যে তুমি এটাকে কার অ্যাক্সেলারেশন ধরেছো?
স্যার দুটোই তো একই অ্যাক্সেলারেশন হবে।
দুটো বডির একই অ্যাক্সেলারেশন কেন হবে?
ডিরেকশনটা আলাদা হবে তো। এ বডিটার অ্যাক্সেলারেশন যদি a হয় তাহলে বি বডিটার a/2 হয়ে যাবে।
হ্যাঁ, দুটো বডি তো আলাদা অ্যাক্সিলারেশন।
হ্যাঁ
ভালো করে খেয়াল করে দেখো, x ডাবল ডট ইকুয়ালস টুয়াইস y ডাবল ডট। তো এর মধ্যে x ডাবল ডট বা y ডাবল ডট কোনো একটাকে তুমি যদি a বলে ধরে নাও, তাহলে তুমি মানে তুমি তো যে কোনোটাকেই যা খুশি ধরতে পারো, সেই অনুযায়ী তোমার আর কি মানে ওই তুমি যেটা ইকুইভ্যালেন্ট মাস বলছো সেরকম একটা আসবে।
এ বাবা,
নট দ্যাট এখানেও তোমার এরকম হতে পারতো না যে x ডাবল ডট ইকুয়াল y ডাবল ডট, হতেই পারতো, কিন্তু সেটাকে ঠিক কিভাবে ইকুইভ্যালেন্ট মাস হিসেবে ইন্টারপ্রেট করবো সেটা একটু বোঝা মুশকিল, বিকজ
আচ্ছা হ্যাঁ 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 ঠিক আছে।
আচ্ছা, এটা আনসার বেরিয়েছে কারো?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sir, মানে body A acceleration will be 1.44 and body B acceleration will be 0.72.
ওকে ওকে, আমার যতদূর মনে পড়ছে এটা বোধহয় কারেক্ট আনসারই।
হ্যাঁ স্যার, আমারও ওটাই আসছে।
ওটাই আসছে।
হ্যাঁ স্যার, ওটাই আসছে।
টেনশন কত আসছে? পজিটিভ আসছে তো টেনশনটা? দেখে নাও তো।
Sir,
স্যার পজিটিভ আসছে।
আচ্ছা ঠিক আছে। এই প্রবলেমটা, সেকেন্ড প্রবলেমটা, এটা দেখে কি বোঝা যাচ্ছে এটা কোন কোঅর্ডিনেটে সলভ করতে হবে?
স্যার আর থিটা বা এনটি।
আর থিটা, হ্যাঁ ঠিকই বলেছে, আর থিটা বা এনটি।
স্যার তার মানে এখানে কি পয়েন্ট এটার স্পিড v0 আপওয়ার্ড ডিরেকশনে?
আমি একটু দেখে নিই। আচ্ছা, সো v0 is 2 meter per second constant, and we are talking about just the instant when theta turns out to be 30 degree. Okay, just the instant. Now theta is measured from here, so okay, I think you know how to use this one. So now, so basically this screw rotates, and this one is a nut attached to the screw, this slotted arm. Okay, and the relationship between screw and nut is that that sometimes the screw rotates and the nut just moves in a straight line, which is the case over here. And at times we know that the nut rotates, and as it does so, the screw might, move in the horizontal direction relative to the nut. So so in this case the screw itself rotates, and this nut right here, it moves relative to the screw in the vertical direction at a constant rate because it is rotating at a constant angular velocity. Okay, and that's what is the vertical velocity of A, which is a cylindrical peg inside this, the intersection of these two slotted arms. Okay, now Now, mm, now the motion path for A, okay, that is fixed. That is on a circular arc, okay, which is to say that the radial distance from, let's say, this point O right here is always going to be same for A, because it has to be a part of both the slotted arms. So it cannot leave, and this one is fixed right here. This slotted arm is fixed right here. So it cannot leave this circular arc, which basically means this the R is a constant. R equals 0.25 meter is a constant. Okay. So if you want to go by Cartesian, this one is constant. If you want to go by R theta, this one is constant. And every time when R is constant, basically your NT and R theta coordinate system are equivalent to one another. Okay. So if you recall, in the acceleration term, AR is R double dot minus R theta dot squared, and A theta is R theta double dot plus twice R dot theta dot. Okay, so if you take away these two terms, okay, they are very similar to AN, which is S dot squared divided by rho, and AT, which is simply S double dot. Okay. So basically, rho beta double dot. Rho is a constant, and this thing is rho beta dot squared. So all I'm trying to say here is, in this case, the NT coordinate system and R theta coordinate system essentially become equivalent. But let's say if we choose to use R theta coordinate system, okay, the question here is not about the acceleration. That's the additional part. Here the question is, okay, of course you can neglect gravity in this case. The force due to gravity is negligible. Okay, I mean, if gravity does bother you, you can imagine everything is happening on a horizontal plane. This just happens to be X direction, and this just happens to be the Y direction. Okay, so so when it comes to V, it is Vxi plus Vyj. We only know that Vy is V0. Vx we don't know. Okay, and if we write acceleration in Cartesian coordinate system, then okay, we know that Ay is 0. Now, now the question here is forces from the slots or the slotted arm. So if you look carefully, if this is our particle, and this one has a mass, and that m just happens to be 0.5 kg. And on this, there are two forces. One is just vertically upward because it is being pushed by the this slotted arm B right here. Okay, and let's call it FB. And then there is another slotted arm A. Okay, here of course they are representing the cylinder with A, but let us just assume this one is a slotted arm. So the force coming from there okay, let's say This is the origin. This is r. This is theta. So it is acting in the radial direction. So these are the two forces. Okay. So the second force is coming from A. Let's call it Fa. Okay. Okay. Now you can imagine what is the angle between the two forces. This is theta and this is 90 degree. Okay. But we also know one thing. This is the resultant force. So R is Fa plus Fb, which is just m times Ax times I. The equation of motion. Now we need to determine the magnitudes of Fa and Fb, or in other words, now obviously from this this triangle right here. So this is like magnitude of R is m times Ax, of course, and the ratio that we can determine from this triangle velocity, the force triangle. So this one is your Fa and this one is your Fb and this one is your R. This angle is 90 degrees and this angle is theta. Okay, so immediately you know the ratio of Fa and Fb with respect to R. Okay, so now if by some means you get to determine Ax, then you can actually determine Fa and Fb. Okay. Now, if I take the expression of velocity in r theta coordinate system, r dot is 0, so this one is r times theta dot e theta. Okay, e theta in this case would be slightly different from what we have known of e theta. So e theta is cos theta I minus sin theta j. I hope you realize that this is not the expression that you would get if you were to take this coordinate as theta. Sorry, I just, sorry. This one is ER, right? This one is ER. And E theta should be K cross ER. Okay. And just to, be correct with the symbols, you need to take theta as minus 30. Okay, so you can also take this to be plus sine theta. Just take theta equals minus 30. So Vy is positive. Achha. So using these relations, actually you can figure out how much is Vx. Not that you need Vx, but you can use this relation to find out theta dot. If you substitute for E theta in Cartesian representation, then you would be able to find out how much is theta dot, comparing the y components of the velocity. And then this acceleration right here is minus r theta dot squared er plus r theta double dot e theta So again, if you substitute the expressions for er and e theta by comparison, you can determine theta double dot. So you'll be having two equations. You see, from this equation, you can get theta dot. So now theta dot will be known quantity. When you come to the acceleration equation, there are two unknowns. You do not know how much is ax, and you do not know how much is theta double dot. But then you have two vector equations to compare. So this thing is like 0 times j. Okay. When you do compare both the components, you will be able to determine theta double dot as well as ax. And once you have ax, you can calculate the net force that is being applied on the cylindrical peg right there. And then from that you can figure out fa and afp. So basically, by this time you might have noticed that until the last moment, this problem is essentially only the problem in kinematics. মানে এই প্রবলেমটাকে জোর করে একটা কাইনেটিক্সের প্রবলেম বানানো হয়েছে। বেসিক্যালি এটা কাইনেমেটিক্সের প্রবলেম। Until the last moment, you are only talking about velocity, displacement, angle, theta dot, etc. Okay, and in the last moment, what you are doing is you are simply taking that acceleration, multiplying with the mass, getting the resultant force, and then trying to figure out what are the individual forces coming from the slot. এটা সলভ করে আমাকে একটু x এর ভ্যালুটা বলো তো। থিটা ডটের ভ্যালু কত এলো?
স্যার থিটা ডট v0/r cos থিটা হবে।
এই তো বলা মুশকিল, তুমি এই থিটার এক্সপ্রেশন বসিয়েছো?
হ্যাঁ স্যার। স্যার কিন্তু একটা ডাউট হচ্ছে, vxi প্লাস v/j
হুম।
আর r থিটা কোঅর্ডিনেট সিস্টেম থেকে আমি স্যার পাচ্ছি যে r থিটা ডট সাইন থিটা i ক্যাপ প্লাস r থিটা ডট কস থিটা j ক্যাপ।
হুম।
তাহলে স্যার
না, তুমি এক কাজ করো, তুমি আর কে কস থিটা আই সাইন থিটা জে নাও, আর থিটাটা যেটা সেটাকে -30° ধরো, তাহলে দেখবে ঠিক হবে। থিটা যেটা কারেন্ট সিচুয়েশনে রয়েছে সেটাকে -30° ধরো, আর আরটা যেরকম লিখেছি আমি স্ক্রিনে সেরকম নাও। সো ইট উড বি অল কনসিস্টেন্ট। E theta would be k cross r, which is sin theta I plus cos theta j. So Vy is r theta dot cos theta j. So theta dot is V0 divided by r cos theta. তাই বলছিলে কি?
স্যার বলছি ই থিটাতে দুটো পজিটিভই আসবে না এক্স আর ওয়াই তে?
না, আসবে না। তুমি কে ক্রস করে দেখো। তুমি যদি আর এর এক্সপ্রেশনটা স্ট্যান্ডার্ড এক্সপ্রেশনই নাও, মানে আমি প্রথমে যেটা বলেছিলাম সেটা না করো, স্ট্যান্ডার্ড এক্সপ্রেশনই নাও, বিকজ দ্যাট ওয়ে ইট উড বি অল কনসিস্টেন্ট, ভেরিফাই করতেও তোমার সুবিধা হবে। অ্যান্ড টেক দ্য থিটা দ্যাট ইজ দেয়ার টু বি -30°. ইনস্টেড অফ টেকিং 30°, টেক ইট টু বি -30°. So E theta would be minus sin theta I plus cos theta j. কত বেরোলো থিটা ডট?
স্যার
হ্যাঁ বলো।
স্যার একটা ডাউট হচ্ছে যে স্যার ই আরটা
হুম
কস থিটা আই মাইনাস সাইন থিটা যে হবে না?
ই আরটা
হ্যাঁ
না
স্যার।
হবে না। মানে তুমি যদি এই থিটাটাকে -30 ডিগ্রি ধরো, আমি যেটা বলতে চাইছি যে তুমি স্ট্যান্ডার্ড ফর্মেই ধরলে, মানে if theta was on this side then it is positive and this one is negative, এটাকে প্লাস ধরতে হবে না, তোমার প্লাস থিটা ধরতে হবে না, এটাকে মাইনাস থিটা ধরো। ওকে,
ও আচ্ছা স্যার, হ্যাঁ এবার বুঝেছি।
কারণ করা যে যায় না এভাবে তা নয়, কিন্তু ওই ইফ ইউ মিস দ্য কনসিস্টেন্সি, মানে আমরা যেভাবে কনসিস্টেন্ট ওয়েতে করে এসেছি তাতে অনেক সময় পরে গিয়ে মেলাতে অসুবিধা হতে পারে বা আনসার ভুল আসতে পারে, দু জায়গায় মিস্টেক হতে পারে। তার জন্য যেটা করতে পারো যে ইউ ক্যান টেক, ইফ থিটা ওয়াজ ইন দিস সাইড, সো টেক দ্য স্ট্যান্ডার্ড এক্সপ্রেশন and just take theta to be -30 degree. মানে হ্যাঁ আমি বুঝতে পারছি এখানে কনফিউশনটা কি, এখানে হচ্ছে cos theta i minus sin theta j, ঠিক আছে, সেটা তুমি নিতেই পারো। দেন দেন যেটা হবে, তুমি যদি এই ডিরেকশনটাকে ই থিটা ধরো, ওকে, হুইচ ইজ কে ক্রস ইওর ই আর, সেটাকে যদি ই থিটা ধরো, তাহলে প্রবলেমটা কি? ইফ ইউ ট্রাই টু মুভ ইন দিস ডিরেকশন, that is not the direction in which theta is increasing, because if you take this to be plus theta, এটা 30 ডিগ্রি, যদি তুমি এই ই থিটার দিকে মুভ করার চেষ্টা করো সেই থিটাটা কমছে। সো টিপিক্যালি উই শো এক্স ডিরেকশন ইজ ওয়্যার দ্য এক্স ইজ ইনক্রিজিং, সো ই থিটা ইজ নট দ্য ডিরেকশন ইন হুইচ থিটা ইজ ইনক্রিজিং। তাহলে আবার সেটাকে কনসিস্টেন্ট করবার জন্য কি করতে হবে, তোমাকে ই থিটাটাকে এই দিকে নিতে হবে, এবং তখন ইট ইজ মাইনাস কে ক্রস ই আর, এরকম কিছু একটা করতে হবে। তো তাতে করে যে সমস্ত প্রবলেম হবে, এবং তাতে করে যে সমস্ত প্রবলেম হবে যাতে করে হয়তো তুমি এই ইকুয়েশনগুলোই লিখতে পারবে না, আবার নতুন করে ডিরাইভ করবে একটা প্রবলেমের জন্য। সো স্টে কনসিস্টেন্ট, ইনস্টেড টেক থিটা টু বি -30 ডিগ্রি।
So theta dot is coming 16/√3 radian per
ওকে,
second.
এবার সেখান থেকে নিশ্চয়ই পরের স্টেপটাতে এক্সটা বার করা যাবে অ্যাক্সেলারেশন ইকুয়েশনগুলো কম্পেয়ার করে। ওকে, এটা করতে পারবে বাড়িতে নিশ্চয়ই। এবার অন্য প্রবলেম একটা সলভ করা যাক। So let's start with the fourth problem. The problem statement is, at what acceleration? Achha, you're not able to see the question. So let's bring in the figure. Okay. So the problem statement is that, হ্যাঁ বলো।
স্যার আগের কোশ্চেনটা একটা জিজ্ঞাসা করছি।
হ্যাঁ বলো।
স্যার আমরা যে স্পিডটা যেটা ধরেছিলাম যে ভিএক্সআই প্লাস ভিওয়াই জে, ওখানে স্যার আমরা সলিউশন যখন করলাম ভিওয়াইটাকে ভি0 ধরে করলাম, আর নেট ফোর্স অ্যাট পয়েন্ট এ এটা অ্যালং এক্স ডিরেকশন। তার মানে স্যার ভিওয়াইটা কনস্ট্যান্ট থাকবে আর অ্যালং এক্স ডিরেকশন ফোর্সের জন্য জাস্ট ভিএক্সটা চেঞ্জ হবে। আর যে কারণে আমরা অ্যাক্সিলারেশন
ভিএক্সটা চেঞ্জ হচ্ছে। ভিএক্স দেখো, ওই স্লটেড আর্মটার মধ্যে যেটা তোমার স্লটেড আর্ম বি ছিল, the peg was free to move horizontally. মানে যদি অন্য স্লটেড আর্মটা না থাকে তাহলে ইট ইজ ফ্রি টু মুভ অন দ্যাট স্লটেড আর্ম। যদি স্লটেড আর্ম বিটা না থাকে তাহলে স্লটেড আর্ম এ এর মধ্যে হচ্ছে, স্লটেড আর্ম এ যদি না থাকে স্লটেড আর্ম বি এর মধ্যে দ্যাট cylindrical peg is free to move horizontally. Okay, so it is free to have an acceleration in x direction. But if the slotted arm moves in y direction at a constant speed, it cannot have an acceleration in y direction. But then the object moves on the slotted arm A following the circular path. Okay, so that also causes it to have some acceleration in x direction. Certain definite acceleration in x direction. It could have had any acceleration, but because it is supported by the slotted arm B as well, so its motion is two-way constraint. So that's why its acceleration, two-way guided motion. So it has an acceleration in x direction, but not in y direction. Acha. So in this problem, the frame is being moved at certain acceleration. It has to be moved at a certain acceleration such that this brown colored cylinder right here, which is mounted on brown colored collar. This thing is called a collar. So this one is placed on a smooth cylinder, which is to say there is no friction, so that it doesn't lose its position. By that it means the relative position of A with respect to the frame remains constant, or in other words, that cylinder right here is moving with the same acceleration as the frame, or in other words, the frame needs to be moved with the same acceleration as A in order to have the cylinder in its own position. So all we have to do is to determine the acceleration of A. So these are the forces received by A. One, of course, আচ্ছা আগের প্রবলেমটা ax কত এসছে একটু বার করলে জানাবে আমাকে। And it is being acted on by
12 meter per second square.
কত আসছে?
12 square.
কত?
12 meter per second square.
12 meter per second square. ওকে, সেটা তো খুব বেশি হলো না? তাহলে তো গ্র্যাভিটি নেগলেক্ট করা যাবে না। আমি তো ভাবছিলাম অনেক বেশি আসবে। তাহলে এক কাজ করো, ওই সেম প্রবলেম দিস টাইম সলভ দ্যাট of course this slotted arm B is pushing this cylinder right here in the upward direction. Okay, in the upward direction, but so it is receiving some vertical force from this slotted arm, but it is also receiving, and as we discussed, there is one force which is vertical, then another force which is in the radial direction, So this is like FA and this is like FB. In addition to FA and FB, also consider M times G. Okay, then only you will get correct results. Okay, acha, এই প্রবলেমটাতে so it is receiving this force due to gravity, and then it is receiving this normal force. Is it receiving any other force? No, right? It is not receiving any other force, and this normal force should if I resolve the
Sir, can I apply the concept of the pseudo force here?
no, you cannot use D'Alembert's principle here, if that's what you are asking.
Okay, sir.
Because actually D'Alembert's principle is not in your syllabus, and this is like one of those problems where it would be very convenient to use. Let me just restate the problem statement, which says okay, so if the collar is supposed to maintain a fixed position with respect to the frame, okay, and the frame is only accelerated in horizontal direction, which means first of all the acceleration of the frame in horizontal direction should be, or the acceleration of the frame should be same as the acceleration of the collar. Number one is acceleration of the frame, and should be equal to acceleration of the collar should be the acceleration of the frame, or the the cylindrical support, whatever you may want to call it. So that is number one. But then there is also a number two, which is not very apparent. The number two is that this acceleration should be in x direction. Okay, so the idea is that the resultant of these two forces should be horizontal one, or in other words, this is n, this is m a times g, and this is the resultant force. Okay. And since the cylinder B makes an angle of 30 degree with the horizontal, the normal force makes an angle of 30 degree with the vertical. So this angle is 30 degree, this angle is 60 degree. Okay, so and this angle right here is 90 degree. Okay, So these two constraints are there. I mean, in this problem, you cannot put a constraint that if I take a coordinate system like y prime and x prime like this, it doesn't have a have an acceleration in y direction. That argument doesn't work here. That argument would have worked if the frame itself was stationary. Okay. Then the cylinder could slide down along x prime. But this time the frame is accelerated. Literally, the frame is accelerated. Okay. And this acceleration A, which seems horizontal, would have a component along y prime axis. Okay. And that acceleration of the frame and the collar must be same. So we know two things about this problem. Number one is this A right here is not only the acceleration of the frame, but also this collar A. And second thing is that acceleration, because this frame is only allowed to move along x direction. So the net force on A should also be horizontal. So this one is R right here. Okay. So in A, it seems MAG sec 30 degree, and then, or rather, R is MAG tan 30 degree. Okay. Or MAG divided by root 3. And that should be MA times A, or the acceleration A is G by root 3. But what would be fun in determining, it would be determining the normal force. Now, unlike our previous expressions, previous experiences where N is typically MAG times cos theta. That typically happens with the stationary, if the frame were to be stationary, and if the collar were to be sliding down along this cylinder right here, this silver colored cylinder right here. But when the frame is accelerated, it turns out MAG is in cos theta, because you cannot deviate from these two statements. So N, it seems, is going to be MAG times 2 by root 3. এই প্রবলেমটা কি বোঝা যাচ্ছে কি হচ্ছে?
স্যার জিনিসটা তো এমজি সেক 30 হবে না, তো ওর থেকে তো বেশি হওয়া উচিত।
নরমাল ফোর্সটা
আসবে, সেক 30 তো আসবে
না, মানে আমরা সব ইউজ করছি ডিএমবাস প্রিন্সিপাল, বাট আমি যদি ফর টাইমিং ধরে নিই একটা সিউডো ফোর্স লাগছে ওর উপরে, তো সেই রেসপেক্টে তো ওর উপর একটা তো লাগা, মানে অ্যাট লিস্ট ওর থেকে ওটা চেঞ্জ হবে, মানে ওই এমজি সেক 30 হবে না।
এমজি সেক 30
ওটাই হবে তো, এমজি সেক 30 হবে। আমি যদি সিউডো ফোর্স ধরে নিই,
নো তুমি যদি ডিএলএমবার্টস প্রিন্সিপাল ইউজ করতে, if you are allowed to assume that there is a force which is horizontal in nature, okay, something like this, okay, and this is your vertical force ma times g, and then your normal force, okay, so which gives you the equilibrium. যখন তিনটে ফোর্স এইরকম ভাবে থাকে, মানে একটা আরেকটার টেলিং এন্ড টাচ করছে, okay, that's when the equilibrium happens, right? Then also you have the same vector triangle, So how can you say it is not ma times g sec 30 degree?
Sir, 1 minute, sir. It's
Okay.
n
By the way,
plus
you are not
g
supposed to use
plus
D'Alembert's
r
principle.
0 minus of mg plus r is mg হচ্ছে কি sin 30 divided by cos 30 mg tan 30 mg plus mg tan 30 so 2 by root 3. Oh yes.
আচ্ছা একটা জিনিস বলে দিই
Having
একটা জিনিস বলে দিই এই D'Alembert's প্রিন্সিপাল তোমরা নিশ্চয়ই শিখেছো যেরকম ভাবেই শেখো যেটুকুই শেখো but you are not supposed to use that. You need not convert this problem right here in kinetics to a problem in equilibrium by incorporating that so-called pseudo force or anything. You should be solving this as a problem in dynamics. Essentially, you use the same set of equations, but this time the equations are equations of motion, not equations of equilibrium. Okay, and and yes, you are allowed to talk about the resultant of these two forces because the resultant of these two forces is what causing the system to accelerate in x direction, or rather this collar to accelerate in x direction. So you are allowed to talk about the resultant, but don't bring in a pseudo force. Okay, so I'm still writing an equation of motion because this resultant force is giving you an acceleration. So basically all I'm trying to say here is summation of all the forces is r, which is m times a, and this a right here has is just this, which is to say that this resultant force is along x direction, and from that actually I can figure out the relationship between n and mg, mg and r and mg. Okay, and once I have r, I can calculate how much is the acceleration. Okay, এবার সত্যি যদি একটু ডিটেলে জানতে চাই আমরা মোশনটার ব্যাপারে, ধরা যাক আমি অবজেক্টটাকে শুরুতে খুব কম অ্যাক্সেলারেশন দিচ্ছি which is not equal to a, তাহলে সেই সিচুয়েশনে কি হবে? The collar will slide down along the silver colored cylinder or the steel cylinder maybe. Okay, and in that case n would actually be smaller than, of course it would be probably greater than mg cos theta, but it would be smaller than mg sec theta. But if you gradually increase the acceleration and reach this particular value, when the relative to the frame the collar remains stationary, that's when the normal force rises to mg sec theta, and the net resultant force is horizontal. Otherwise there would be a vertical component to the net resultant force, or in other words the collar will descend. That is, a part of that would also be in the y direction, negative y direction, along the that slant cylinder right there. Okay, anyways, let's move on to the possibly the last problem of today's class.
So that means that the normal force will range from mg cos theta
to mg sec theta. Yeah, that's
actually, sir, first
I mean,
time I made a
yeah.
mistake there only. I was seeing sec theta, but I was calculating for cos theta.
No.
That's where I
Let
made
me
that
tell you.
mistake.
Let me tell you this. If you accelerate the whole frame even faster, what will happen? The collar now would try to move in relative to the frame in the upward direction, which would mean now the normal force is even above mg sec theta. So the assumption, আমি শুধু এটুকু তোমাদের মন থেকে ক্লিয়ার করতে চাইছি যে একটা স্ল্যান্ট সারফেস দেখলেই n equal mg cos theta, এটা কিন্তু ভুলে যাও, ঠিক আছে? স্কুলে হতো, that's not universal. It depends on the acceleration of the frame. If the frame is stationary and there is no force, no other forces, possibly n equals mg cos theta. But let's say even without any force, if the frame is accelerating, the n need not be mg cos theta. It can even be mg sec theta, and it can be even more. Okay. আচ্ছা, so এবার আমরা লাস্ট প্রবলেমটাতে যাই। আরো কিছু প্রবলেম আমার মনে হচ্ছে যেন সলভ করতে পারলে ভালো হতো। তো তোমরা নিজেরা কিছু কিছু ট্রাই করো, তোমাদের যে প্রবলেম শিট এটসেট্রা দিয়েছি আমি, তারপর সেখান থেকে কোনো ইস্যু হলে আমরা নেক্সট উইকে আর একদিন বসে ডিসকাস করতে পারি। এনিওয়েজ, এই প্রবলেমটাতে কি হচ্ছে, দুটো ব্লক ওয়ান অ্যাবভ দি আদার স্ট্যাক করা আছে, এবং দুটো ইন্টারফেস, একটা গ্রাউন্ডের সঙ্গে একটা দুটো ব্লকের মধ্যে, অ্যান্ড দেয়ার আর সার্টেন কোএফিসিয়েন্টস অফ ফ্রিকশন। অফ কোর্স দ্য স্ট্যাটিক কোএফিসিয়েন্ট অফ ফ্রিকশন ইজ অলসো ইম্পর্টেন্ট ইন দিস কেস।
স্যার
হ্যাঁ বলো।
স্যার ওটা একটু জুম ইন করবেন।
হ্যাঁ অবশ্যই। Okay, so one is 80 pound mass, the other one is 100 pound, and okay, so now let's say what happens to the situation when gradually there is any motion. So if you are, let's say, increasing p from 0, okay, so initially there would be static condition, okay, and then there is no relative motion, and possibly one of two situations will happen. In one case is the two blocks, okay, as in an assembled condition, they both start moving, okay, or this may happen that the blue colored block starts moving while the top one remains stationary, which doesn't seem practical. So in the beginning, probably both the block will start moving, but then if you gradually increase p, there would be a certain point when there would be a relative motion between A and B as well. The idea here is, if you really look into the free body diagrams of the block, so this one is P, so and it is receiving the normal force coming from A in 1, it is receiving the normal force coming from the ground in 2, and I'm not directly writing N1 to be 80 lb, which is true, but I should not be mentally solving equations of equilibrium. And because it is trying to, when it is in motion, it is actually trying to pull A with itself. So A applies a resistance against motion, which is the F1, and of course so does ground, but it cannot pull the ground with itself. So N1, F1 and N2 and F2, these are the four forces in addition to P. So this is the complete free body diagram of the object. Okay, and right now I'm not writing what are the expressions for F1 and F2, but just writing the general expression. And then there is A. Actually, by the way, these are not the only forces. There is also the 100 lb weight of the block. On this one, there is 80 lb normal force, and because B is trying to pull it with itself, so F1. Okay, These are the only set of forces. And with that, it is in equilibrium in y direction, which basically means N1 equals 80 lb. And we can consider case 1. Okay. So the actual direct question is, when does A start slipping on B? Which means the acceleration of A and B are still same. Okay. But this F1, which is initially a static friction, let's say when both the blocks start moving, at this interface there would be static friction, and here it would be kinetic friction. So relative motion over here, but no relative motion over here. So F1 is mu s times N1. Okay. Now, when so we are talking about the limiting situation here. That's why I have put mu s times N1. We know that static friction is not always mu s times n. It is actually smaller than mu s times n. It's when a relative motion is about to happen. When a slip is about to happen, that's when it is mu s times n. So in the beginning, when p is, let's say, gradually increased from 0, okay, so there is probably no relative motion between block A and block B, and the friction right here is less than mu s times n. Okay. But then when it reaches a certain value, when P reaches certain value, then then gradually there is a time when the friction force here, because this block A right here is only being pulled in the horizontal direction by a force of F1. You see this N1 and weight of the block, they are only cancelling each other. It's just this F1 which is pulling the block A towards the right. Okay. And we are talking about a situation when this F1 is a limiting friction, when a slip is about to happen between A and B. Okay. It's not the general situation. Just keep that in mind. Okay. So sometimes even in the answer script, while you are writing, you forget these little things, and that simply shows up in your assumption, in your calculations. It's so just keep in mind that static friction is not trivially mu s times n. It is actually less than, it is anything between minus mu s times n to plus mu s times n. Okay, so if we can use this condition, so we have also used one equation of motion. So by the way, how many unknowns do we have? We have P, we have F1, we have F2, N2, and N1. So 5 unknowns. Okay, we need 5 equations, and let's say for this one we have 3 equations right here. So this one is 1. So sigma fx is F1, which is mu s times N1, and that is ma times the acceleration. Okay. But you don't need this acceleration right now. You can simply evaluate F1 from here, and because it is static friction, still in the domains of static friction, although limiting, so this A right here is also going to be the acceleration of the second block, block 2. So for block 2, we can write we need to calculate this acceleration from here. So net force in y direction for block B is N2 minus N1 minus 100 lb. So apparently in the end, N2 would be the sum of the weights of the 2 blocks, which is very intuitive. And then when we sum all the forces in x direction, we have minus F1 minus F2 plus P equals mb times this acceleration right here. So although they are about to lose, contact, but they're still in contact. So which basically means they still have the same acceleration. They're about to slip, but they're still in contact. So from this you can find out P, which is mb times A. You know mb, you know A, so you can calculate this product. Then there is F1 and then there is F2. But how do I know F2? Because the entire system is actually having relative motion with the ground, and even before having a relative motion in this interface, the motion with the ground has already started. So, and of course this one is a problem in kinetics, not in statics. So F2 of course is in the domains of kinetic friction. So it is mu k times m2. Okay, so substitute all of this and you will have the value of P. So can you tell me, acha, because you are converting everything into pound, once you have the, so how do you get the acceleration? In order to get the acceleration, so this thing right here, you can write it to be F1 times mb divided by ma. Because everything is in gravitational unit, you don't have to convert them into pounder. So basically over here, to get the acceleration, you need to multiply the force with 32.2. And here you need to, after you multiplying with the acceleration, you need to divide that with 32.2 to convert it from pounder to pound. So you can skip that by doing this substitution, because both the bodies have the same acceleration. So what value of P are you getting? এটা বার করে গেল P।
না স্যার, একটা এমনি ডাউট, যে যখন জাস্ট অ্যাবাউট টু স্লিপ, যখন যে কোনো কেসে, এইটা না মানে যে কোনো কেসে যখন জাস্ট অ্যাবাউট টু স্লিপ বলবে, তখন কি মিউ এস নেওয়া উচিত না মিউ কে?
যখন just about to sleep,
হ্যাঁ
okay, that means it has still not started sleeping. Okay, so there is no relative motion right now, and so
Static term.
it's like the static friction, but the limiting static.
Yes, okay, sir.
Sir, I am getting 54.
Yes, sir.
54. So I guess this is 0.15 times. I'm getting 45. Can you please check? One second. No. I'm supposed to take 0.2, right? Yeah, 0.2. So 0.30. So 54 pound. Yes, correct. Acha. Now, can you can you extend this and tell me what are the accelerations of the two bodies if P equals 60 lb? That means we know at this point, so at 54, relative motion has started. So by the time we reach 60 lb, there would obviously be relative motion. Now see, if I give you the value of P, that is 60 lb, okay, you are still working with this many unknowns: N1, F1, N2, F2, okay, and what else? So these are 4 unknowns, and also you do not know the acceleration of B and acceleration of A. So the unknown count is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. P now is a known quantity. Now, how do you write 6 equations of, 6 equations for the 6 unknowns? So the obvious ones are there are 4 equations of motion. In addition to that, you can use the following equations that F1 is this time F1 is also under kinetic friction. So mu k1 times n1, and F2 is mu k2 times n2. Okay, so we are considering the case 2, or let's say the second part of the problem. So let's say the problem B. So problem B is when the force reaches 60 pound, what are the accelerations? Okay, so in the previous problem, the unknowns were the acceleration of the so there were N1, F1, N2, and F2, and of course there were the acceleration of the whole system and the P. Those were the unknowns. Okay, so again there were 6 equations, 6 unknowns, and you had just the 6 equations to solve them. So obviously there were 4 equations of motion. In addition, this relationship with F2 and N2 were the same. It was still in the domains of kinetic friction, but in the domains of so the relationship between F1 and N1, that was mu s times n, because relative motion was about to happen. And this time we know that the relative motion is already happening, and let's say the 2 objects have different accelerations, because that's why actually there is relative motion. because the friction force is no longer sufficient to maintain no slip. So only thing is this this equation of motion has changed, and this time we know the value of the force, so one less unknown, which is balanced by one additional unknown, because this time the accelerations of B and A are not the same. Okay, so determine the accelerations of the two bodies for the second part of the problem.
Sir, I am getting 4.83
Okay,
for A,
Acha. What was the
and sir,
okay?
for B it is 9.66.
Okay. Now you see, did you do the necessary conversion from pound to poundal for this one?
Sir, actually I divided 80 by 32.2 in order to get the
Okay.
mass.
Okay. No. Mass is 80 lb only. It's just that the force is in gravitational unit. You need to convert that to standard unit. So every force that you have, you need to multiply that with 32.2 whenever you are trying to calculate the acceleration. Anyways, you would get very similar answer, but it's just that the calculation is incorrect. Acha. So one is 4 point something, and another one was 9 point something, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now you can also compare this. One minute. You can also compare these values of the acceleration with the acceleration that the two objects would have. In the previous case, just the previous example that you solved, you can compare the acceleration from that situation, which should be something in between these two values. Okay. And one thing to notice is that just by increasing from 54 to 60 lb, only 6 pound, okay, of force, there has been that much change in the acceleration. Okay, because earlier the acceleration was same with both the blocks. This is because, of course, that earlier it was in the domains of static friction. Now, since there is relative motion between the two blocks, the force on the first block is even smaller, because the top block, the block A, is in acceleration because of the friction force F1. Now that friction force F1 would be even smaller because it is in the domain of kinetic friction. Okay, that's why there is so much drop in the acceleration of block A. That is one thing that I want to add, and the second thing that I want you to do is to do a third part of the problem, where instead of applying 60 pound force, you are applying 50 pound force. Now again, you will have that the that would be there would be no relative motion between the two blocks, that is known to us. But in that case, we would be knowing the value of P. And does that mean we'll have one less equation or one less unknown? No, because force is no longer F1 is no longer mu s times n1. Okay, f1 would be smaller than mu s times n1, and we do not know how much. So that equation you cannot use. So you have, in that case, instead of having 6 unknowns and 6 equations, you will be having 5 unknowns and 5 equations. So you can try to do that third part as well, just for the sake of completeness. Okay. Acha, if you have any other question, just let me know.
Sir, for the first part, when the block A and block B were moving in the same acceleration,
Mhm.
I calculated the acceleration and it is getting 6.44.
Okay. Okay.
So for the second part, I got for block A 4.83 and 9.66.
Mhm.
So why for block A the acceleration is decreasing?
You got higher acceleration for block A.
No, no, sir. For the first one, I got 6.44 for block A and block B.
Block B. Okay. And the
And for
next
the
is
second part, I am getting block for block A it is 4.83.
so the acceleration is decreasing. That's what you are saying, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Now I could not come up with any better example, but let's say um, you are trying to catch a train, a fast moving train in the station. Okay. And somehow you got hold of the handle at the door. Okay. So obviously both of you and the train are accelerating at the same rate, but suddenly uh, mm, you could not maintain your pace, and you released your hand from the you had to release your hand from the grip. Okay. And obviously then the train accelerates in its own direction, but then your acceleration decreases, right? So you see, in the situation is slightly different in this case. Here the block A is only being pulled by the friction force that is coming from block B. Okay. Now earlier that friction force was mu s times n. Okay. That means not always, but at most it could be mu s times n. And we simply considered the highest possible situation, with the limiting situation when the sleep is about to happen. So so we got whatever friction force that we are supposed to get. So and we got the corresponding value of acceleration. Okay. Which would be like, if we take mu s equals 0.2, that would be the 20% of the acceleration due to gravity. So you got around 6.4. Okay. But when the grip is lost, and the situation is in the domains of kinetic friction, so the maximum friction force, the only friction force that the block is receiving is only 15% of the acceleration due to gravity. And therefore it is only accelerating by that much. So it is only 15% of 32.2, which is something above 4.8 feet per second squared. Okay. So it's as if two people were trying to run together, but one couldn't just simply keep up. So the grip, if they're holding hands, the grip was released, and one person accelerates, because you see, when two-person try to accelerate in the same value, try to accelerate by the same amount, one is pulling the other. So the person who was pulling the other one, when the grip is lost, that person accelerates even further. But when the grip is lost, that other person who was being pulled, that person slows down, right? So I don't think that is very far from imagination. Does it sound sensible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other queries for the day? Okay. So if you have any queries, once you try all the problems sheets and from problems from your textbook, if you have any question, you can let me know in the classroom, or maybe in the next week we can also have a doubt clearing session in the Wednesday. If you require, of course, you'll have to mention that. Okay. So officially, to our the classes are over by today, and if we require, we will meet in somewhere in the next week. Okay. তোমাদের পরীক্ষা কবে থেকে শুরু হচ্ছে?
স্যার 18th অগস্ট।
18 স্যার।
18 তারিখে শুরু হচ্ছে।